Hey, what's going on, fam? My name is Jamel Tony.
Hey everyone, I'm Lakeisha and welcome to
Jesus, keep us near the cross.
Progressively Becoming.
Hey, what is happening? Good evening, good afternoon to all of you.
Thank you guys for joining us for yet another conversation. As always, as you're getting on, make sure that you like, comment, and share. And let somebody know PB is on now. We are in the building. And every Tuesday, right here at 7 p.m.
It is such an honor, truly, to come with. It feels like we haven't done PB in a while, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To me, it's like we haven't, engaged with you all in quite some time.
The days are just meshing together for me. So.
It's a collide. Like, Monday just rolls into Thursday. Before you know it, it's like Monday again. It's like, go to sleep Thursday, you wake up, it's Monday.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel about them.
Life is moving.
It's Friday.
Yeah, right? But which Friday? Last week Friday, 2 weeks ago. Like, life is moving, and thus so are we. We are ecstatic that you have decided to join us on the Progressively Becoming platform. We are committed and prayerful about being true to what God has called us to be. Remember, Progressively Becoming is established with the great intention of showing all of us and identifying the reasons as to why God created us. God created us for a reason and a purpose.
Yes.
And progressively becoming is the platform in which we endeavor to just have conversation with you, to help us become the persons that God has called us to be in the area of our character and our resources and our finances and our relationships, and even in our bodies. God intended for us to live in a purpose, and hopefully, prayerfully, we can help you discover that. Welcome to all of our podcast listeners. Google, Apple Music, Spotify, into our newest family, iHeartRadio. Good evening, good morning, to wherever you are.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Yes. And even those that are just joining us, as you are getting on, make sure you like, comment, and share. Let's not forget Thursdays, morning devotions, right here live on Facebook and on YouTube, 6 a.m., where we come together and we pray for you and with you. As always, if you have any prayer requests, you can send it to progressively@gmail.com. You can also put it in the chat. You can instant messages, direct messages. Just DM them, right? Not instant message. So just DM us.
I mean, if you still have AIM, you can message us.
Is that still
AIM?
I know people still got that as an email address.
I know people still got that as an email address too, and I've been wanting to tell them, and I think I told them, I need to catch up.
Anywho, you can, however you want to send that, or you can wait until Thursday morning and put the name in the chat.
Absolutely.
But make sure you let somebody know. Make sure you tag someone, bring a friend, family member, co-worker, anyone. Make sure you letting them know that Thursday morning, 6 a.m., we will be praying. Prayer works, prayer changes things, and we believe in the power of prayer.
Absolutely.
This Friday, 15 at 6 is back.
It is back.
Our monthly motivation and inspiration. That is only available on our podcast outlet. So if you haven't already, make sure you download Apple Music, Spotify, Google, and iHeartRadio. So make sure that you download those apps so that you can be a part of this powerful encouragement. It's 15 minutes where we just come on and encourage you. 15 minutes only.
Absolutely.
And we got truth to time on that one.
Yeah. Anything else? We are a work in progress. Progressively Becoming, welcome to all of you, and welcome to those of you that may be watching us on the Place of Exchange platform as well. That is the ministry that God has has allowed us to birth, my wife and I. We are excited about that portion, that area of the of the ministry. Yeah, definitely. So we are excited about that. Join us Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Sunday Exchange. We are committed to outreach. Some of you know about a month and a half ago, we did a book bag and school supply giveaway where God has graced us and really blessed us. And thanks to your generosity to give over 200 book bags filled with school supplies for young children and middle-aged students. We are back at it again with another outreach opportunity. We are excited that we are committing ourselves to give out coats and clothes in December. That date is being fine-tuned, but in December we will be giving out coats and clothes. And because of that, as of last week rather, we have announced our clothing and coat.
See, that's what happened to me. And you laughing. See, now you done made up a clothing.
Our clothing and coat drive.
Clothing and coat.
Clothing and coat drive. If you have gently used coats, hats, indoor scarves, I need you at this moment to text 855-997-3031. Let me just throw that on the screen. That's 855-997-3031. If we have drop-off locations in Brooklyn, New York, as well as in South Jersey. All you have to do is text that number and say, I have a coat or I have a donation of clothes and/or coats that I want to donate. If you text us at that number, somebody will get back with you to provide you the address that you can drop it off and/or if pickup is needed.
Right.
That's something that we will avail ourselves to also. So again, I need you to spread this word like wildfire. I am believing God for over 250 coats that we will be giving to Camden, New Jersey in December. Again, text that number 855-997-3031. Shortly after this conversation, we're going to post it on our social media platforms. And I want all of you to go ahead and just share that post to everyone that you know. Text us at that phone number. Let's get it done. I believe God is going to once again do the marvelous in our lives. Help us reach that goal.
Right, and we also looking for donations for clothing.
Yes.
So we want to just also stress that for children and adults. My stressing on children. So if you have used and gently used clothes, or even if you want to send some new, you are welcome to it. But young school children, we're looking for, middle-aged children, so children as well as adults. So you can also include that in your donations.
It's time to clean out our closet.
Look in your closet.
Clean out the closet. We have entered the fall season. You are probably looking in your closets now at some of the things that you can no longer fit because you lost weight.
Yes, that's it.
Right? Contact us 855-997-3031 and someone will get back with you on how you can drop it off, or we can pick it up at any location where you may be at, respectively, near us.
Okay, Mr. Wordy.
We will make it happen.
Mr. Wordy.
We will make it happen. This week, we are continuing the Voices of Pride. In order for us to progressively become into the persons that God has so desperately designed for us to be and created for us to be, you cannot do that if you ignore the voice of pride in your life. Pride says that I don't need God. I don't need anyone. Pride relies on his own self, his own merits, his own accomplishments to get forward in life. And if you live with that attitude, if you live with that demeanor and disposition, unfortunately, you will never become the persons that God has so desperately called for you to be.
Exactly. Yeah. And just so we're clear, just to remind ourselves what pride is. Yeah. Pride is a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements, consciousness of one's own dignity, and pride, as we discussed in our first episode in relation to this, is a social emotion. We express the voice of pride is not what you hear, but is rather the voice that comes from you.
Pride comes out of you.
Yes.
it does. And it's so subtle that you won't realize that it's talking. And hopefully throughout this conversation, you'll be able to identify the voice of pride in your life. It's subtle and it attaches itself to you and begins to grow up roots. Last week we mentioned one of the voices of pride are the voices of neglect and insecurity. We discussed how insecurity is a perverse form of pride. It often starts with fear, right? Insecurity starts with pride, which then creates fear. So it starts with pride, and then it creates a sense of fear. And we got through 2 of the 3 types of insecurity that can produce the voice of pride out of your life. We discussed personal and professional insecurities. If you missed any of last week's conversation, please go back and watch it, listen to it on Facebook and or YouTube or even on our podcast. But tonight's conversation, we want to pick up and discuss the 3rd type of insecurity that produces the voice of pride in our lives, and that is relationship insecurity.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. So relationship insecurities are actually very common, and they can occur in any type of relationship. So they make you feel like you don't deserve your partner and that someone else will make them happier. So these insecurities that you have can lead to jealousy, it can lead to arguments, it can lead to dominating behaviors. So relationship insecurities can also be caused by past experiences with previous partners or other friends and even family members if they have caused you any trauma. And they also can be caused from people that's outside of the relationship. Other people outside of the relationship can make you feel like you don't deserve your partner.
Sure, yeah.
I've been there.
And it's true. If we don't grab a hold to the insecurity that can exist in our relationships, then we will not have the relationship that God wants us to have. Again, and it leads to jealousy, arguments, and dominating behavior. I want to focus on that one phrase, dominating behavior.
Okay.
Because dominating behavior can easily lead us into pride. Right? And there is this relationship between pride and insecurity. And I think for the purposes of this conversation, I think we have to be extremely clear on what is this relationship between pride and insecurity. Right? It can seem as if it does not, that there's no correlation, there's no common ground between relationship and insecurity. But that's the way it's supposed to be because it's subtle, right? Pride is an high or inordinate opinion of one's own dignity, importance, merit, or superiority, whether you believe it in your mind or it's even displayed in your attitudes and or in your conduct, right? That's pride. Pride is not just expressed verbally.
Right.
It is in your actions as well as your beliefs as well.
That's true.
Right? You don't got to say anything out of your mouth to exhibit pride.
Right.
You can show it by what you believe, and you can show it by how you move. Actions speak much louder than words.
Right.
Yeah.
And the same thing like with insecurity.
Yeah.
Insecurity is you lack the confidence. You lack self-assurance. You lack self-doubt.
Absolutely.
And the two definitions are quite opposite. However, they do have one major thing in common.
What is it?
And they value the same thing.
Pride and insecurity value the same thing. Here it is. Breaking news. Tag a friend, tag a family member. This is the relationship between pride and insecurity. Yeah.
So both pride and insecurity value their own opinion above all else. So pride will say, I'm the best at this thing no matter what you say or what you think.
And insecurity says, I am the worst no matter what you say or what you think.
That's good.
They value their own opinions over everyone else. And that is the relationship between pride and insecurity, right? And pride and insecurity are so connected with each other. And they may appear to have nothing in common. For example, shrimp and grits. Right? Shrimp and grits have absolutely nothing to do with each other. One is out the ocean, another one is grown in the field. Right? They have nothing to do with each other. But it is a meal that is quite. I mean, I can't eat shrimp because, unfortunately, I may.
Yeah, we want you to stay here. We want you to get out.
I can't do it. But
yeah, like shrimp and grits. You wouldn't think that goes together.
Yeah.
And it actually goes together quite nicely. Yeah. And that's become like the signature dish all around the world now. And they mesh like well together.
Yeah. For example, it's like the person who takes pride in having all of the answers but can't handle being wrong.
Right.
And I probably stepped on some of your toes right now. You think you have all of the answers. Right? You know everything. But you can't handle when you're wrong.
Yeah.
Pride and insecurity, right? It is the person who thinks they are great at everything, but they refuse to try anything new because of fear of failure. But I thought you was good at everything. Like you just said out of your mouth that you were good at everything, but you won't try it because you're scared that if you fail, you'll be labeled a failure. And that'll go up against who you think you are, great at everything.
Right.
Pride and insecurity.
That's good.
Right? And because pride, here it is a cover up for our insecurities. And as we see in society, the most prideful people have the often of the most insecure.
That's true.
And you can see it. You can see it in politics.
That's true. And we just want to get past that notion that confidence and pride is the same thing. So I don't want you to think because you have self-confidence about yourself, then that means that you're prideful. It's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. Because if we're not careful, our confidence will lead us into pride.
Right, it can.
Because confidence says, I'm confident in my own ability. I'm confident in my own efforts. I'm confident in whatever I am able to accomplish. Confidence says I can do this on my own. And if we're not careful, confidence can lead us into pride. But they are not the same thing.
Right.
It's not. Yeah.
And then I don't know if you guys remember, maybe not, or maybe those of you that are new watching today. Go back and take a listen. But last week we did give an example. If y'all remember, about the pretty girl, who on one hand she was thanking God that she wasn't ugly, but on the other hand was constantly looking for someone to affirm her looks.
Yeah.
And self-confidence says, I know that I am beautiful, regardless of whether or not you compliment me. I mean, tell me or not.
Correct.
And if I'm told that I'm pretty or if I'm beautiful, then that's just a compliment and it's not my identity. So I'm not getting caught up in that.
I love it.
So it's, I'm confident that I'm beautiful regardless of whatever. If you say it or if you're not.
Absolutely.
But if you don't say it, it's not going to shatter me.
Absolutely.
But if you do say it, it's just a compliment. but it's not defining who I am.
Because identity, here it is, says I am regardless if I receive affirmation or not.
And that could be kind of tricky.
And some of us have to, some of us has to, with great intention, make that statement so true in our lives. Identity says I am regardless if I receive affirmation or not. The affirmation does not affirm my identity.
Yeah.
Because whether it's there or it's not there,
I still am.
I still am. Whether you tell me I'm handsome, whether you tell me I'm beautiful, whether you tell me I'm smart and intelligent, I am handsome, smart, beautiful, and intelligent.
Right. Exactly.
And I cannot, I will not allow myself to exist out of your affirmation.
Right. Exactly. It's true. We can't allow others to dictate our path.
No.
We can't.
You can't. No. We can't. We can't. So perhaps that's a freedom moment for some of you today. Right? Your identity is who you are regardless of what anybody says. Right? And so I think because of that, the question we must ask ourselves is as it relates to insecurity and pride, where does this need for affirmation come from? Right? Like why are we in a society where so many people long to be affirmed and to be validated? Where does this need from affirmation come from? It is no problem with wanting to be affirmed. The problem is when, if it does not happen, it begins to affect your self-esteem.
That's good. When it doesn't happen, that it begins to affect your sense of yourself.
Yeah.
So, for instance, I'm just gonna use us as an example. Not that this has happened, but I'm just gonna use it as an example. So, for instance, if Jamel doesn't tell me that I'm pretty or you look beautiful, or he's not showing any like affection to me, then to me, I'm not attractive. And then he's not attractive to me now. So what I'm going to try to do now, I'm going to start doing things, I'm going to start adding things to make myself more appealing to him. And then what happens is I may, dress a little differently, put on some makeup, put on some, other stuff because I'm looking for him to be attracted to me.
Put on some negligence.
Some negligence and lingerie.
I'm sorry to cut you off. But I don't forget, it was years ago, and we were somewhere, I will not say where we was at. We were somewhere, and the person said, "Oh, you got to make yourself, more attractive. Every now and again, you got to put on some negligee for your husband." And in my mind, I'm like, who uses the word negligee? And what? Can somebody give me the definition of negligee? I'm ignorant. So tell me, please, what is negligee?
That's like lingerie.
But then why not call it lingerie? Why do we call it negligee? Gang, keep reading. I want to look up what negligee is.
I can't.
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So in this example, if we are not careful, right, this part of the equation that leads to pride, because insecurity creates fear, and then fear leads to pride. So in this example where I'm feeling, unattractive to Jamel, and he's not, desiring me or telling me I'm beautiful or I look good or, being affectionate, that insecurity ultimately will lead me to the fear of abandonment. So when I'm thinking if he's not attracted to me or he's not affectionate towards me, then eventually he's not going to want me and then he's going to leave. Mm-hmm. So in that, I have a fear of being abandoned by him. Or from him not telling me that I'm beautiful.
Yeah.
Or that I'm attractive. Or I look nice. Or you're not touching me. Or you're not hugging me. Mm-hmm. You know. At the end of it, I'm thinking you're going to leave. That's just, you know.
Insecurity leads to a feeling of abandonment. And for example, negligee is nightwear, fancy nightwear.
But is it the same thing? Oh.
No, lingerie is, according to the dictionary, it is a woman's like underclothes, but negligee specifically is for nightwear.
So we using the wrong word because we should use negligee.
Yeah.
And lingerie is like, you know.
Yeah. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm so uncomfortable talking about this right now.
I'm gonna put some negligee later.
Moving right along. Yeah, insecurity, as you said, can lead you to this fear of abandonment, mm-hmm. right? And then now kids were product placement, right? And now begins to cover your sense of insecurity, because as the example goes, it is the girl who on one hand thinks that she's beautiful and thanks God that she's not ugly. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, is constantly looking for someone to affirm her looks. Mm-hmm. And that is the voice of neglect.
That's good.
Listen to us carefully. Neglect is to give little attention or respect to. It is to disregard. It is the state or the fact of being uncared for. Mm-hmm. And this is a harsh yet true reality. All of us have experienced neglect, whether from our childhood or even as an adult, that has led to many of the problems we are facing today. Because neglect ultimately will impact the choices you make in life.
That's true.
And a neglected person will suffer psychological injuries as their basic physical and or emotional needs are not being met. Mm-hmm. If your emotional needs were ignored, dismissed, mm-hmm. minimized as a child, mm-hmm. it will be difficult to identify the impacts on your mental health as an adult. Right. The beliefs about, listen to us, the belief about yourself mm-hmm. are formed when you was young, right. can seem like facts when they are not. Mm-hmm. All because of neglect. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You formed a belief as a child, right. and now you mature into an adult, mm-hmm. and that belief can seem like facts, right. and they are not.
Right. And like some instances where we have like young women, yes. you know, where they lacked like the father figure in their life. You know, you felt like, you know, you were neglected by your father. You know, was suffering from fatherly neglect. Yeah. And then you look for men like to fulfill that void.
So, exactly what though?
So you look for like love, okay. and affection, and all the things that you should have received from your father in this, you know, in this example, yeah. that you didn't receive yeah. from him. So now you're looking for that love, you're looking for that someone to care for you, looking for someone to take care of you because you didn't have that. And then your father wasn't there or left, and then a part of you felt like he didn't want me, he didn't love me, you know, I wasn't good enough. Yeah. And then you take that as you get older, and a lot of times you don't even realize that's what's happening until you get a little older, and then you think back and you really assess yourself as to why are you in these certain type of relationships, why are you, you know, with these certain type of individuals, because you kind of like clinging to the same type of personality. Why am I putting up with this? Why am I putting up with that? Knowing that they're not good for you, and that's because you holding on to a feeling that you didn't receive when you were younger. And a lot of times, like I said, you don't even realize it until you're a little older, and then you take a retrospect as to why you're feeling this way, and that's because of abandonment. You have a fear of being abandoned. So you'll put up with crap. You'll put up with junk. You'll put up with things that you know you shouldn't be a part of. You'll put up with somebody that don't deserve you because you don't want them to leave. Because you're holding on to those past hurts from feeling neglected by your parents. That's just, and I just find that a lot of times that happens in young women, especially when you've had different relationships and, your father wasn't around or wasn't a part of your life. You look for that in other men. And again, you don't realize it until you really look back and you really realize that's what's happening. And then you'll make, hopefully it'll allow you to make the change to know that you are loved, you are cared for, and whatever happened or whatever the reason was that your father wasn't around, that doesn't define who you are.
No, it's that's good. And as you said, they put up with anything because of the fear of abandonment. Of once again someone leaving. And as we said before, fear leads to pride. Your fear will lead to pride. It is a cover up for our insecurities. So you'll hear things like, oh, I don't need nobody. I'm good all by myself. I'm good. I don't need nobody else.
Right.
Or prideful acts and prideful expressions, all because you are attempting to cover up an insecurity that you have that was rooted in the fear of abandonment.
That's true.
Can neglect experience lead to insecurity? And that's the question you have to ask yourself. Can the neglect that you experience in your life, has that led to some type of insecurity as an adult that you are experiencing now? And that may be difficult because you may have to begin to pull back layers upon layers and layers ultimately to get to the root. Because if you do not listen to us, if you do not expose it for what it is,
right,
that will become the building block of pride.
Wow. That's good.
I don't want you to leave me. I'll put up with it because the fear of you leaving, which makes me feel even less secure about who I am, because now my identity is in what you say to me and even in what you do to me, right? And then we develop this false sense of security that is pride.
Right. And let me just,
and it's a cover up.
And let me just be clear. In that situation, I was just using the female as an example.
Absolutely.
It applies to men as well.
Oh my God.
Because, unfortunately, everybody's mom, it wasn't around, or, for whatever reason, but they also have those same issues where they feel, lack of love, neglect, and things like that, and then that just attracts them to certain types of people. So I just want to be clear that I'm not just thinking about women.
Absolutely. And it is true. And a lot of times for men, that insecurity and that fear of abandonment is often played out on how we treat women.
That's true.
Right? So the male and female's response to insecurity and fear of abandonment may look different, but it is still an insecurity and a fear of abandonment which develops a false sense of security that leads to pride. This is the voice of pride. It is neglect. It is insecurity, right? When a person's needs are not being met, when they are dismissed, when they are ignored and even minimized, you begin to question the validity of your emotional needs and whether or not they are even worthy of the support and attention. When it is ignored, you ask yourself, am I worthy of his support, of support and of this attention?
Am I worthy? That's loaded.
Because you let something keep being ignored. You let a need keep being ignored in your life. You let an emotional need keep being ignored, minimized, or downplayed in your life. Eventually, if you're not strong enough, eventually you're going to ask yourself the question, am I worthy of this need being met?
Right.
And it is these crucial social interactions that begin to define the perception of yourself. It is the value that you put on yourself. Self-appraisal. How do you value yourself? It is our estimate of ourselves in terms of our strengths, our weaknesses, our feelings, and our preference. That perception of yourself, whether it is correct, partially correct, or not correct at all, is the basis of your sense of self-esteem. So when you are able to appraise yourself correctly, you are able then to move forward and tackle a lot of the fear and the insecurity.
Self-appraisal, y'all. Put that down in the chat. Self-appraisal.
Self-appraisal.
That's good.
How do you value yourself?
That's good.
And if you don't have this value of yourself, then eventually it'll become destabilized in your life. And your sense of security will become affected.
Absolutely.
And I think this is why, I know, we gotta go. This is why it's so important to know exactly what God says about us. Like the lies, pride and insecurity can be so loud and so convincing that we begin over time to believe them.
Yep, believe what it says.
We believe what it says. And we hold that opinion, that lie, over the need of God's grace and ultimately what God says about us.
So for instance, like I got this.
Yeah.
I can handle it.
And you don't. And you don't.
It's all me.
You don't.
It's all about me.
You don't.
And never like acknowledging
You don't.
like God. Or
You don't.
never acknowledging his help and the need that you need for him.
Correct.
Then that's where that lie comes into play.
Yeah. And here it is. It's a lie.
It's a lie.
Oh, you can say it as much as you want out of your mouth. It is a lie. You're lying to yourself. You're not lying to God because he already knows it's a lie. All right? So you're not tricking him. Right? And you're really not tricking yourself.
Right.
Who do you believe you are? And do you trust what God says about you? And the truth is, there are many of us that have experienced emotional neglect as children.
Yes.
And we grow up into insecure and uncertain adults. Because we didn't receive the positive reinforcement that we needed when we was young, we cannot learn to trust ourselves as adults and even our instincts.
Yes.
Emotional neglect will always lead us into low self-esteem.
Low self-esteem. And it's a lot of people that's dealing with that. Low self-esteem, low self-worth, and then that also leads into, depression and,
Absolutely.
anxiety and then, suicidal thoughts and things like that. So y'all know our TV cut out, so y'all know what that means. It's telling us.
So emotional neglect leads to insecurity that can grow into and develop the root of pride. Here's how. Insecure people often use criticism of others as a way to feel better about themselves.
Right.
Insecure people worry about the future because worry gives them the illusion of control.
And it also, like, insecure people have a very hard time of saying no.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's hard for them to say no is because it makes them feel needed and secure.
It reinforces the neglect they once experienced as a child.
And the thing is, the problem with that is when you never say no, then you end up living other people's lives instead of your own. So you are living out the life that they have for you, as opposed to living your own life.
Absolutely.
Because you don't know how to say no.
You don't know how to say no.
Sometimes it's okay to say no.
And it all stems from this root of insecurity. So here it is. We want to give you a few tips to overcome insecurity, right? Here it is. Confront your feelings rather than avoid them, right? Like, as we said previously at times, confront what is causing your feelings. Goes back to the root. Identify the root. Ask yourself this question: where was the neglect?
Right. Yeah. Where you have to identify, and we always say that you have to go back and, like Jamel said earlier, peel back the layers, because a lot of times our answer is going back to the beginning to figure out where it came from. Also, have a growth mindset and set solid goals. So in order to do better, you gotta be an active participant in the process.
Correct.
You can't just think it and then don't do it. You can't just will it in your mind and just put no action behind it.
Yeah.
You have to prepare yourself for setbacks, but don't let it control you. Setbacks may happen, setbacks may come, but don't let the setback knock you out. It may knock you down, you may get a little wobbly, you may get a little shaky, but don't let it knock you from fighting to be the better version of yourself.
Don't let it knock you out from the fight to be a better version of yourself.
It's true.
Embrace all of your characteristics and passions. Challenge the negative thoughts and begin to think critically. Surround yourself with positive, loving, and encouraging people. Right? Listen to other people's stories about overcoming their own insecurities.
Yeah, sometimes, like I always say, like, sometimes the best help for us is hearing others that went through some of the same things that we went through, or something similar, that you can tell me how you came out.
Absolutely.
I may not do it exactly the same way, but just to even hear it is encouraging, number one. And then I'm going to try it. We may got to tweak it a little bit for me, but at least that positivity can help me know that there's a way out for me too.
That's good.
And then try things, new things that's gonna make you happy. You gotta, my thing is, you gotta make your own happiness. You do. You gotta make your own happiness. You can't rely on others to make you happy. You have to find your own happiness.
Absolutely. Yeah, be proud of your progress, no matter how big or no matter how small you may think it is. You can overcome this.
Right.
You can overcome insecurity, and you can be healed from any neglect that you experience in your life.
Exactly.
Thursday morning devotion. I just feel this. I wanna center our prayer around neglect, and the feeling of neglect, because these tips are all great, but what has to be paired with that is going to the person that can give you the strength to bring up what happened and heal yourself from what happened, and that's God.
That's God.
Right. So Thursday prayer. I don't know, and we gotta go. If you have been challenged with some level of insecurity that you currently have in your life now because of a neglect that you experienced when you was a child, I want us to pray about that Thursday morning. Because I just sense that God really wants to free us. You can't become who He wants us to become if you don't be free.
To be free from what's holding you down.
Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Yeah. Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Tell a friend, tell a family member. We are praying against the chain of neglect that wants to keep us from experiencing the freedom that God has came and died so that we can have.
Absolutely. And we thank you guys for joining us for another conversation.
This was deep. Who's side? Breathe in. Who breathe out? This was deep. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. We okay. We okay. You okay? You are okay.
You are
You are okay. This was deep, but Tough conversations are often necessary to have. You know, sometimes we need that punch in the gut.
If we're progressively becoming, if we're growing, like some of these conversations are gonna be tough to have, but it's necessary.
It is necessary.
So thank you guys for joining us. We love you. Y'all have a blessed night. Take care.
Absolutely. And how do I end it?
It's just
How do I end it?